Dewey Beach Monthly Town Commissioner Meeting being held at Dewey Beach Life Saving Station as well as via Zoom. Today is Friday, March 10th, 2023, and it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'd like to convene the Town Commissioner meeting, and without opening ceremony, first stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States. Second item on the agenda is for roll call. Commissioner Jasinski.
Sorry, I had to unmute. I'm here, of course.
Commissioner Gibbons.
Here.
Commissioner Persinger.
Here.
Commissioner Bauer.
Here.
And Mayor Bill Stevens is here. We also have a full house. Something must be going on that I don't know about. We also have council, Chief Speak, and our town manager, Bill Zoper, here as part of it.
Feeling, isn't it?
It's a good feeling.
Okay, good.
The first is, can I have a motion for an adoption of the agenda?
Yes.
With first things, I just want to say the first item on the update from the Center for the Inland Bays, they've asked to be postponed until next meeting. The woman could not make it, so I asked that.
Yeah,
Barrow?
I'd like the motion to move item 7 up to number 1 and adopt the agenda as is.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Is there anyone here for? All right, Kate. Is anyone here for public comment for an item that's not on the agenda? Come on up. State your name, even though we know who you are, and we'll be limiting things 3 minutes today.
Good afternoon. I'm Dave Thomas, and I'm here to offer some words to move and persuade in follow-up to the March 2nd meeting of the Association of Coastal Towns, hosted by Dewey Beach. Kudos there. The Diamond State's smallest wonder sparkles again, and chaired by Mayor Stevens. Good work. As to 3 items that had come up during the meeting. 1, the template that was mentioned. 2, the options that were also touched on, and the comment period until the 23rd. The template used to renourish our beach will not include restoration of our lost dunes, only certain ones further south, South Bethany having been mentioned. I don't subscribe to the idea or notion that because DNREC may or does own the dune system, we here in Dewey are not involved with beach or dune renourishment, or even we don't have anything to do with beach nourishment. My view is that we in Dewey Beach are stakeholders, indeed primary stakeholders, as to our former 5-star beach that was totally gone at last August's full moon high tide, clear up to the toe of our dune system that had been eroded away to an escarpment, potentially making the dune even less than the 128.78 calculation we only had in relation to the FEMA 540 rule. Still good law under 44 CFR sections 59.1 and 65.11, and leaving us with only some 23% of our needed coastal defense under that pre-climate change standard as to major hurricane adequacy and impacting our flood insurance mapping, to be brief here. My view, therefore, and in contrast, is that A, the beach is, hands down, Dewey's primary infrastructure asset, the absolute driver of our hospitality-based economy and entitled to primacy in local governance and policy. That's why wisely we have $5.6 million in an earmarked fund for that protection and renourishment. B, the beach is also part of a critical coastal defense protective dune system against not merely our annual diet of nor'easters, but even more essentially, the rare, perhaps only once in a lifetime, authentic hurricane that would spell utter destruction, each dollar spent with protection foreseeably preventing multiple dollars of destruction. So the question then becomes exactly what is the template that is being used when we get beach renourishment? How does this apparent, as I understand it, benefit cost calculation work out, and what do the components look like, particularly since the Corps of Engineers and DENREC are stovepiped in reference to the FEMA 540 policy that I mentioned. 2, what are our options? At the Association of Coastal Town meeting, Jesse Hayden mentioned at one point that he would rely on the coastal towns to put out information as to his presentation. Was the option as to local towns getting additional cubic yards of sand? Would it be as to fencing, crossovers, ADA considerations? How about storm-resistant trash can arrangement of some sort? 3, it was mentioned that there was an open comment period until the 23rd. I interpret that to mean March the 23rd. And is that as to beach nourishment and the current upcoming arrangements? I think it's important that we not have our absence of public comment either as a town or as or at the grassroots citizenship level be interpreted as indifference or complacency or withdrawal. In this third aspect of withdrawal, I understand that it has its appeal. Little Dewey, after all, in between the 5 million in stormwater issues and proposals we're facing, the 6 million in the town hall and the police department that we're facing, and the Inland Bay's spreadsheet of adaptation on Bayside measures on the Climate Change Committee's website that are millions more in cost, put a lot in front of us. The incentives to the town therefore are to welcome the concept that DelDOT owns the coastal highways and most all of Dewey's side streets and therefore is financially responsible for them. Ditto for the Bayside wetlands that DENREC owns. Ditto for the beach and dune. But look.
Mr. Thomas, we're at 5 minutes. I'll let you go a little bit further than.
Okay.
But I'd ask for you to do me a favor and please send me comments directly.
I will. There's
so that,
just a little bit more hand, and I'll put them in writing. I was going to lead up to something that's not part of right now.
Okay.
It has to do with the trash cans. Maybe Dewey doesn't need bear-resistant trash cans like on the Appalachian Trail, but maybe storm-resistant would be. Okay. Thank you much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Could we all get copies of those comments?
Yes, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, sir.
You noticed I was.
Anyone else from a public comment perspective? All right, not seeing any. Kate, anybody on Zoom?
We've got a few people hanging out in the waiting room, if you just want to ask them if they want to make general.
If there's anyone in the waiting room that would like to make a public comment, please do so now. Not related to the agenda. Or score. Okay. All right, not hearing any. We'll move on to updates and announcements. Town manager.
The survey plans for replacing the front deck have been completed. They're being sent over to the county for approval. We expect the deck to start the work on that in the next couple of weeks. The money from the infrastructure committee that was approved, the sinkhole in Bellevue Street with the drainage pipes has already been addressed since our last meeting. It's already been completed and fixed. The second thing is the mapping of all the stormwater pipes from Rodney Street down to Collins Street. That'll start next week. So you'll see some trucks out from SPS that'll be out doing that mapping. That'll be putting cameras down into the stormwater pipes to see which ones are still open and which ones are closed. The Reed Street project will then start sometime at the end of next week, and that's for replacing or pulling the flaps out on the bay side. And then the last piece is the pump station, and that'll start around the 20th of this month, where they're going to go down and repair the wall at Bayard Avenue in Bellevue. So they've been told that they have to get everything done or work up to the week April 1st, and then stop for the week before the holiday, Easter holiday, and the week after, and then commence after Easter. Been working with Senator Coon's office on grants. One of them is for the EMS station that may be part of our new town hall. They are looking at possibly funding the equipment for that. So I've been working with the county EMS on that. Rodney Street at the end, Bayside. The demo has been done to McKinney's old buildings that he had there, the McKinney family had there. It's been turned over to Blue Water. We had a survey done. The markings show that the town owns down to the bulkhead. We've asked the new company to remove several different structures that are in the right of way. We plan on putting parking there starting May 15th for the public. More to follow on that. Summer police officers, we're looking for summer part-time or summer officers at $18 an hour. Our parking ambassadors at $17 an hour, lifeguards at $16, dog ambassador at $16. I'd like to pass that on. We still have many positions to fill. Also, we can still taking sponsors for the beach mats, the bike racks, and the benches. You can do that on our town website. 2 designs for the exterior of Town Hall have been submitted by GMB. I have sent them over to the mayor, and I expect we may see them in April. The interiors are done. I've talked to each one of the department heads, including our new chief, parking department. We've gone over those, and we are satisfied with the interior of both the police station and the administrative floor of the new town hall and police station. Beach replenishment is still on schedule. They should be in Dewey Beach on or about the 21st or 22nd of April, depending on how long it takes them to do beach replenishment in Rehoboth. They will start on Reed Street, work their way north to Salisbury, and then go back to Reed Street and work their way south to Collins Street. This lot out back will be a staging area from them, and all the vehicles will be moving on and off of the beach from Collins. They'll work 24 hours a day until they get 24 hours a day until they get it completed. We need a Board of Adjustment member. We are short one, so if you know anybody that would like to be on our Board of Adjustment, we are looking for somebody. April 10th, our parking tags will go on sale, and we'll also put something out in our newsletter about that. RFPs, we have several that have closed. Trash RFPs are still out until the 17th. Landscaping RFP will be out until the 28th. Our audit RFP closes today. We have one company that put in for the audit RFP. We will be putting signs underneath the cameras that are on Route 1. Police department has 9 signs that are out on Route, or 9 cameras out on Route 1. We will be putting signs underneath those that say Dewey Beach Public Safety Cameras. We want the public to know that they're there. We want the public to know that, if they need some help, the cameras are there, and then if there's anything that happens, it has been recorded. There's also 1 camera down at Van Dyke Street on the Bayside, and then there are 2 in the Lions Club parking lot. And with that, I want to turn it over to Jim Dedes, who will provide an update on the 5G poles. Jim?
Good afternoon. Thank you. On March 2nd, we assigned 2 permits for 3 Rodney Avenue approximately on the right-of-way, and 1 for 15 Clayton Street approximately on the right-of-way to move the poles from the dunes to those areas. So far, we have issued 4 permits for movement of poles, and we're having some difficulty with Collins Avenue, St. Louis, and I'll explain in a second, and St. Louis, we have not received an application either. The 2 areas that we have some issues with are Collins Avenue and St. Louis. We've received information from Verizon that there's some issues with movement of the poles to those locations, predominantly because of the Delaware Public, I'm all tied up here, DP&L, Demover Power and Lighting. We have not received an explanation as to why. I contacted their government liaison, Jim Smith, for information regarding this, and he was not able to give us additional information. I've also asked him to attend the next meeting in April, hopefully to give us clarification what the issues are with DP&L and Verizon. So that's the update on that. And I just wanted to comment on the last meeting, you asked for the ordinance to be passed for Buena Street, which was 100 Buena, for a rezoning request. That on February 22nd, I did attend a meeting with the Plus Review Committee that was unanimously approved. So I will, as soon as I get notification officially in paper, will process that and have the town of Dewey Beach maps changed. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Dedes. Any questions from council?
Mayor, I have one
Okay.
additional thing. So all the information that Mr. Dedes just talked about on the permits, they are posted on our town website. If you go to our town page and click on 5G updates, they are listed. So if you want to go in and see all the information on the permits, there's no reason to come in and they're right there for the public to get. There's no reason to try to get them in a different way. But and with that, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to turn it over to the chief.
Of course.
Yeah.
Chief?
Come on up, Cliff.
We're getting moves. I'm gonna put it back here.
So, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming for this great occasion for Cliff. Cliff was a seasonal for 3 years, and then he came to Dewey in 2000 as a police officer. He went to the Criminal Justice Academy on the Eastern Shore. He was a bike officer. He's a bike trainer. He's a certified instructor. He runs all the seasonals, the seasonal academy, PIO, and a detective, and he's basically has his hand in everything here. And we couldn't do it without him. So I'm going to read something that I wrote for his promotion. So, Lieutenant Dempsey, the only thing more satisfying than being promoted is being the one doing the promotions. Immediately, I recognize that you possess strong leadership skills and a willingness to put in the work to accomplish the mission. I have saddled you with numerous projects with short time frames, and you have come through on all of them. It is abundantly clear that you are not only well known throughout Sussex County, but more importantly, well respected for your knowledge and professionalism. You possess incredible institutional knowledge and have the respect and admiration of both your subordinates and peers. I could not be more confident that I am promoting a consummate professional that will help me elevate this agency's professionalism and reputation. I need a strong and competent commander that will help me undertake all the improvements I have planned for the Dewey Beach Police Department, and you, Cliff, are the perfect person for this job. Effective this 10th day of March 2023, I promote you to the command rank of lieutenant. I look forward to continue to build a strong team of law enforcement professionals to protect and serve the citizens and visitors of Dewey Beach. I truly believe your promotion begins that building process. Congratulations, Lieutenant.
He's got a vest on, he's fine.
Everybody in the room come up front here for Cliff.
Get your all in there.
Celebrating my daughter's 18th birthday.
Yay! Taking a picture. Congratulations.
Well deserved.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank
Yep.
you. Congratulations. Thank you.
We get him all these shirts, right?
Yeah.
Enjoy your day.
All right, you guys want to run now? Go.
Thanks.
Put $1 on the plate.
All fed the beater on the way in here.
So, you've been doing this a lot longer.
Is anybody left up in Wilmington? I mean,
Yes, seventh year, yeah.
Have you ever had, that we've had this twice, with the promotion?
No, well,
Not this way. It's great.
well deserved.
We're getting the
All right, we'll wait for everyone.
Now it's going to get really quiet in here now.
So now that we have.
See you, Lieutenant.
See you guys. Any questions from council for anything that either the town manager or the chief has provided any updates on? Not seeing any. Okay, we'll move on. Committee reports.
Climate change, that's, I'm first up.
Yep.
I think
Go
as,
through all of yours, that'd be
as all of us around the table certainly know, and maybe some in the room know, we had a workshop, a climate change workshop on February 20th, and it was facilitated by representatives from the Institute for Public Administration at University of Delaware. And it was a really good session. And out of that, we considered, I think, 15 policy options that IPA had worked through with the city of Lewis some time ago. And we kept 10 of them on our agenda for further consideration. We all got a report, I think, this morning as a result of that workshop. So we have those 10 policy options for the committee to consider in the future. And there's a framework for them to evaluate each of those policy options. So they'll be addressing that at their meeting, which probably will be scheduled sometime in April. And I'm really happy with the progress this group is making. And, I think we're going to get some good ideas out of this group. So that's it for climate change. Audit is second. The town manager just said that we were seeking proposals from auditors. We do have one proposal. The audit committee is scheduled to meet on Tuesday to consider that proposal. And, hopefully, perhaps out of that, we will have a recommendation for an audit company. Nothing on charter and code. Comprehensive development, they're still trying to schedule a meeting. I think we're right down to the wire on making a decision about whether or not the current comprehensive development plan that we have is really sufficient in all of the objectives that are listed there, and we're working toward those. I tend to think that we're okay, that we don't need to update that plan. We just need to report progress. But I think it's important if we can get it organized for a group of citizens to get together and to give us their view. Do they agree with us? Do they think we're moving in the right direction? We have the right set of objectives. But I think in terms of getting this done, we really need to make a decision at the next meeting. And that's all I have.
Okay, we'll note that to have that on next month's agenda. Commissioner Bauer.
All right, so budget, we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but that's a little more in-depth. Marketing, Kate, what was the final number a week ago? It was 172 responses?
Last I checked was a couple days ago, we were at around 650, 670.
Wow.
Wow.
And most of them are clean, correct?
Yes.
Yes. That's what I was hopeful for. So that's the only updates on that. So the marketing committee is going to review those 600 plus responses in our April meeting. Hopefully bring something to everybody.
And when is the April marketing meeting?
Kate, what's the date of that one?
I think it's the 14th.
14th? Okay. It's a week before ours.
Okay, good. Commissioner Jasinski.
Nothing from the infrastructure committee.
Mr. Gibbings.
Investment committee has not met since our last meeting. Nothing to report.
Okay, thank you for your updates. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes, of February 17th, 2023 meeting minutes.
Motion.
Motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, it's passed. As noted, with the adoption of the amended agenda, number 1 will be also moved to next month. And we have asked for number 7, which is discuss and possibly vote on a resolution to approve the beach concession provider contract to be moved up to number 1. I believe that we have the gentleman here, if you'd like to come up and give us a little overview.
Sir, can I talk about the
Absolutely.
process really
Sure.
quick? So the contract for beach concessions was a 5-year contract. I extended it 1 year last year, and then we had to put it back out for bid. I went out for bid from January 26th to February 24th. Without trash, we had one person bid for it. That person is here today. Myself and Mr. Townsend and our town clerk did an interview of Mr. Lynham. He came in. We asked him about his equipment. We asked him about experience. We asked him, could he provide the insurance? His family has been involved in doing beach concessions in Dewey Beach and Rehoboth. David has been experienced in doing it from over 30 years. They have over 400 to 500 chairs and umbrellas ready to go right now. He didn't have to order anything. He has his beach shacks ready to go right now. He didn't have to order anything there. He's always been able to provide the number of employees that he needs. And in the last 2 years that I've been the town manager, I've never gotten one single complaint about the concession services or any of his employees. He is also able to provide a bond when needed. And I'd like to also point that when we had some of the storms this year, when our basketball net that the lifeguards put up every year got washed out, it was Dave Lynham that went down, found it, and pulled it up on the beach and helped our maintenance person get it off the beach. So he's done more for the town than just concessions. But going back to concessions, he was the only, and based on my interview, Mr. Townsend's interview, and the clerk's interview, we are recommending him to the council for consideration for beach concessions.
Wonderful. Okay. Glenn, please.
Yep, David Lynham, been running beach concession for like 33 years. And I'm going to continue and do a good job. Any questions? I'll be glad to answer. He pretty much thanks.
Any questions for council?
I love the conciseness of your statement, sir.
I have a question. How much is this bid for? Is it 83, 84, 85?
It's, I agreed to pay 85.
85, okay. And this will be for 5 years. What was I know we amended the code last meeting, and went to 5 years. What's the rationale really for locking in a bid for 5 years at $85,000?
Was the only one that bid.
No, I
we don't
understand.
have to lock that in. You could always vote not to accept this, but that was the only one we had. I think it's important that we do have concessions on the beach. I think it's important that Dewey Beach looks at certain standards and requirements. Based on our interview with Mr. Lynham, we felt he met those requirements.
And if I remember, Gary, I believe that in the last meeting, we discussed this, it was for up to 5 years, and that if there was a reason why we would need to get out of the contract for breach, that we have the ability to do that.
Well, yeah, breach, but we're basically locking in the revenue that we're going to receive for the next 5 years at the same amount of money. That's, and we're all worried about inflationary pressures, but yeah, we simply accepted a flat bid here for 5 years. I will admit, I did not do enough homework, and it was not firmly in my mind, in fact, that that's what we were doing when we extended that for 5 years. I had forgotten the structure of this arrangement.
May I comment on
Yeah.
that? So I think the contracts had virtually always, as far as anyone remembers, been given for 5 years, although the code said 3 years. So it was more of a housekeeping change than a substantive change. I could be wrong, but I think we've only had a few of those over the last, few of these contracts have been given in the last 10 years, I guess maybe 2 plus the extension. But I don't know that we're changing policy, actually. We're probably just trying to comply with the code by fixing the code. The other thing is, what we learned is that the cost of these materials, cost of the chairs and umbrellas and everything, it's very, very, it's very costly to be able to perform. And I think that if we were going to make this contract available, say every year, or every 2 years, every 3 years, we would find that no one would want to invest sufficiently to be competitive, because the outlay on providing the chairs and umbrellas is such that you couldn't justify doing it over just a 2-year period. You need a period. And I think Mr. Lynham might have considered paying more for a longer commitment from the town than 5 years. I know that we had talked about linking his compensation to the town to the length of the contract.
Just one other couple of questions. This went out the first time. It included the trash component. And what was the bid we were asking at that time?
I have to go back and
Was it
pull up.
70
I think
something?
It was 70. I think the person did 75 or 78,000.
Okay, so now we're at 85, and the trash component's been removed. Do we have any idea how we're going to come out on that that change?
So I know if we end up doing it ourselves, and I know this was a question from some other folks, it will cost the town around $40,000 if we did it ourselves. And that's hiring 2 people at approximately $20 an hour, maintenance and fuel for a truck, a flatbed, the cans, the bags that we would probably use to put inside the trash cans were quite costly, about $13,000 based on the number of bags we would go through with 100 cans or 75 cans on the beach. But a rough estimate was $40,000 for us to operate it.
But we don't have any bids from a vendor to do it.
We don't, as of right now, that bid's still out and won't be back until
Right.
the 14th. I
Okay,
believe, or
okay,
17th.
all right.
17th.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
So this is Dave. I did have a question for Mr. Lineham. Could you just expand a bit on, and I respect the fact that it's your decision, whether you'll do it or not, but just expand a bit on what kind of led you to make the decision that the trash was just too much to be doing?
Well, I'm almost 60 years old, first of all. And it's just a big burden with with COVID and everything and the takeout food. It's just a lot more trash down there to deal with, and just getting too old for it, to be honest.
Okay, right. So I guess, my main comment about this, everyone knows Mr. Lineham does a great job. There's nothing but kind of positive vibes, as our town manager said, as far as the quality of the service goes. We're looking at basically $25,000 in increased cost expense to the town, or less revenue, however you want to call it, with paying for this trash. If we do it ourselves, we don't know what will come in from another bid. Obviously, part of Mr. Lineham's decision is how much it costs to provide the trash service. So I expected some increase in costs. It's a bit much. I don't know that it's insurmountable. My take on this is I very much support, based on my own opinion as well as all the feedback I heard, of us continuing to provide the trash on the trash pickup from the beach and not making that change. And net effect on our budget, as Mr. Zolper said, is it's basically $25K because you're getting $15K in increased revenue out of the contract. And if we're going to approve this, I want to know from my fellow commissioners that you guys support if we need to spend the additional $25K going ahead and doing that, so that our residents and our $4 million budget will feel like, we're still picking up the trash. So if any of you want to comment back on that, I'd appreciate it.
Commissioner Gibbings?
Why did you pick me? There are a number of different ways to approach the trash pickup issue. I don't like looking up at this. It gives me a headache. David, I'm not ignoring you. I'm going to talk to the people. We've got to consider all the different ways of going about it, and we've got proposals out. Some of them may come in less than hiring 2 more people and getting a truck and buying all the supplies ourselves. We have to have the garbage picked up and not on the beach. Absolutely. There was a picture that came out that was horrifying, and that's not how our beaches are going to look. And we got to find the cost-effective way to do that. And if we have to spend a little bit to keep things comfortable, I am okay with that. Personally, I'd have to see what the rest of the commissioners think. But I think the quality of the chairs, the quality of the umbrellas is a decision we can make today, and we can continue to keep the trash on our front burner and come up with a solution that works for everybody.
And if I could say one thing, I still have all the barrels, and you guys would be free to use those. And I also have like a 30-foot trailer that you could use to swap the barrels out. Because I just don't have 100 barrels like the contract says. I have 200 barrels. That would help out.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Yeah, I very much support keeping the trash cans on the beach and collecting the trash from the beach. I think that's the way to minimize the trash issue that we're going to have on the beach. I think if you move them to the other side, to the street side of the dunes, it's just going to be more difficult to get people to carry their trash off the beach. So I support that. And I think we need to find whatever resolution we can to do that.
And including ways of keeping them secure on the beach, because I didn't realize about their tumbling effect.
Well, if we have to worry about them washing away, then we're wasting our time with beach replenishment. We need to do something else. I don't know that we've had that problem in the past.
Maybe we could have a meeting in April sometime, and we can discuss the ways to secure the cans snow fence in a 10-foot section. Now the rope is not, the rope, they just fall right down. That's why last year I had to build those little structures, because every time the wind would blow, it would fall over. So maybe we could have a meeting sometime, discuss things you could do if you did it in-house.
Thank you.
Commissioner Barrett?
Yeah, Mr. Lamb, would it be possible, would you consider just moving, if we do keep the cans where they're at, would you, maybe we could pay you to move them to the street side and have GFL pick them up? I mean, I think
I would think the lifeguards would be better off with that job.
Yeah, it's a tough one. All right, I had to ask, though.
And I'll go last from a comment perspective. We will absolutely have trash pickup. We will, any comments to think that there wouldn't be trash pickup on the beach is silly. The thought process that we have right now, has put out in a few emails, it's the who's going to do it and where the can's going to be. There has been a majority of those who have favored keeping it on the beach and fear that people would just drop their trash. I don't have that fear. I don't think people will knowingly just drop trash on the beach. I've seen a few, but I mean, in overall, as my wife and I go for walks to the park, I don't see trash up there. So people are coming on the park and absolutely taking it back over. But I respect everyone's opinion that we should at least try to continue the way it is. And then possibly, as we go through this year, if we have qualified bids from third-party vendors, or we look inside of what we're going to potentially do in-house, and thank you for offering both the trailer and the cans, we can review this next year in terms of the where, as we figure out the who, which I think is the important part for this.
I have another comment on that. South Bethany and Fenwick has street side cans. When I go to Fenwick or South Bethany, I don't think that their beaches are trashy by any means. I mean, it's different. It's a change. So I think there's a perception of that change versus the reality of that change. I mean, I think we'd all like to have it. I'd like to have a trash can right next to me. I don't even have to walk anywhere, but that's unrealistic. So I think worst case scenario, we'll figure a way out around not doing the trash, but yeah, if you could reconsider taking them over to Dunes for us, that would be great.
Well, just for public record, there currently are cans on both the dune side as well as, or on the beach side as well as the street side. It's always been that way. We've had the 4 barrels and 1 or 2 cans on the other side. It may just be that we need to figure out how to have a balance for that. Any other questions for Mr. Lynham?
I'll make a motion.
Well, I have to open for public comment.
Okay.
Hey, is anyone here for public comment? I liked it better when the place was full. Kate?
You do have someone on Zoom.
Okay.
Hey, Bill, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah, this is Jim and Erica, your favorite beach and bash couple. Just wanted to put it on the record that we were the ones that bid initially, $78,000, including trash removal. So we were just a little taken back when we were the only ones that bid and we got denied. Listening to all this discussion and stuff like that, but so I just wanted to make it known that we were going to do trash removal. We were going to have all brand new chairs. We had brought in Chris from, he's a businessman from ROR Brewing. We're going to make over a $300,000 investment into the town, do a website, have solar panels and stuff where people could charge their phones. So really bring it up and not make it over commercialized and remove them just like we're asked. So just want to let the council know for the record that that's what we were going to do from that end. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. We don't.
I'm confused. I mean, I hear we got one bidder and I hear we got another bidder who, for some reason.
We had one that bid with trash.
Okay.
We went through the process. Myself, Jim Dedes, and Mr. Townsend did the same thing that we did with Mr. Lynham, asked him the questions. We felt they did not meet the requirements that were in the contract.
Such as?
such as they did not already have the chairs. They did not show us pictures of the chairs or the umbrellas. They had not had experience with running a beach service on a mile long. Some of the shacks, if you want to call them, as you heard Mr. Curlin say, solar panels on top. I was somewhat concerned about having that type of equipment on the beach. There was just some concern about that type of service, a new service coming in and not having the experience or the equipment ready to go. And as Mr. Townsend said earlier, these people have to have this stuff ready to go. If you say you're going to order it, they may have been able to get it in on time. They may not have been able to get it in time. Memorial Day rolls around and we don't have 400 chairs on the beach and 500 umbrellas, then you're not going to have concessions on the beach. The commissioners think that that was worth taking that chance, but myself, Mr. Townsend, and Mr. Dedes did not.
You have a comment?
So I support the comments. I think that, I think we appreciated the interest we got from the other bidder. I think we had a fine meeting. I think it wasn't the easiest recommendation to make, but I think it was the most responsible recommendation to make, given the lack of experience, the major departure in the operation that was being suggested by the other bidder, and most importantly, the lack of, I believe it was umbrellas and chairs. There definitely was chairs, but I believe it was both umbrellas and chairs. And the cost of obtaining those and the inability for us to measure those against the standards that have been set over the years that caused the pause, that resulted in them being deemed technically not a responsible bidder.
Okay, thank you.
It's a challenge that we may be criticized for if we're, moving forward with this bid and we look at the overall cost. But I understand that the main or the primary concern was to make sure that we had the concessions the way that the town has expected them, to continue that. And as Mr. Zolper said, that there's been no complaints at all, and they've done well. The question is, how do we in the future make it more qualified bids so that people can come forth? But I understand what you're saying in terms of, because I think there's only 2 companies in the area that do this, correct? Is that,
As far as I know, it's Katz and Lineham that have the equipment. Sometime in the past, there was another company that came in that did get, and from what I understand, they lasted about half of the summer.
okay.
And my understanding also was that the bid required that you show that you had the equipment, that you had the chairs, that you had the umbrellas, and they showed with nothing. So it's hard to know quality, and people are expecting a certain beach chair and a certain umbrella here.
And Mr. Lineham has proven that he has been able to bring the staff in also, which is, I think, is one of the key for that contract. Ms. Banaszak, is Mike getting another nod from you?
We have 2 public comment.
I'll take the one in the room since, okay. Please state your name and
Sure. My name's
rank.
Chris Brown. I live at the top of Carolina. We own 2 lots. Moved there about 6 months ago full time. Have an investment business in the country, but also was the chief operating officer for the city of Detroit for 3 years. So I ran a water and sewer as well as trash. So a lot of challenges that you guys have. So happy to help. All I want to say is we've had a kind of kerfuffle at the top of the street of Dewey, and everyone is 100% in favor of not moving the cans off the beach. I think when we think about the reason we lived here and the quality of life is, we know that the top of the street, it's just a challenge in all top of the streets, whether it's Chesapeake or Carolina, whatever. And I think the quality of why we decided to move here full time, I have a daughter at 16, she's in SAS, and I got 4 other kids, one of them's here in the room, is just to make sure that we get that same quality. So we can help. Anybody needs any other help, I'm happy to help.
I heard expertise in trash. That's all I heard.
I ran 30 trash dumps, so and landfill gas, and did investments. So
Now, all I heard was trash expert.
It's called selective
Piqued
hearing.
my interest as well.
but I'm 61. So, but anyway, I'm just in favor. I think all of the residents on Carolina are in favor of keeping it on the beach. So we can have that, and we just want your support on that.
Great, thank you.
Thanks very much. And great job, Phil.
Quick question. Would your 16-year-old be interested in moving cans from one side of the dune to the other?
David Moskowitz is on Zoom for public comment.
Please bring them in.
Hello.
You're live.
You're on.
Yeah, I think you need to delay the beach contract for 2 weeks because you're supposed to match assets and liabilities. You know how much, you know what's coming in, but you don't know how much you're gonna be spending for trash. Previously, the town was getting $70,000 a year, which included trash and $2017. Now it's $85,000 a year without trash. And if you take that 85 and minus it by 40, the town's going from making 70,000 a year to only 45. So it's losing money. And you don't know how much the trash will cost. This year it could be 40,000. Next year you have to pay people more. It could be 50. You just don't know. And you're signing a 5-year contract, which Commissioner Persinger alluded to, without knowing what the trash cost will be. So I think it just makes sense to delay this contract 2 weeks, do the trash and do the beach contract on the same meeting and just get it down and do it right. I mean, otherwise you're locked into this for 5 years and you don't know what's happening. And that's the problem. You need to do both together. It should have probably not been separated, but if you're separating it by doing different vendors, doing the town one, you need to do it together, the contract, to be aligned. I mean, there's a reason why the beach vendor is saying he'll do it for 10 years at 85,000 because it's basically going to loss of the town of 25,000 a year.
Thank you. Commissioners, put it out for a motion and or conversation.
I'll make a motion. My motion is that we approve this contract, subject to Mr. Linehams' generous offer that we can have the use of his trailer and the existing barrels for the duration, whatever condition they're in for the duration of the contract. That'll help us a little bit financially on the expense side. And just a comment, not part of my motion, is I will be asking us when we do the budget to include funding for the beachside trash service.
If I could ask you just to amend that slightly, is that if it is that the town ends up doing the trash pickup, that we would need those. If we do have a qualified third vendor who will do the trash, then we won't need those.
Yeah, I accept that. That's fine.
I'll second that.
Second. Any other conversation, discussion? Go for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 That passes unanimously. All right.
Well, thank you all very
Thank you.
much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave. Do a great job. Thank you.
All right. The next item on the agenda is to discuss and possibly vote on an ordinance to amend 117-13 of the municipal code of the town of Dewey Beach to revise license and fees. Update, town manager.
So after reviewing with the Budget and Finance Committee on ways to increase possible revenue for the town, given that services and the cost of those services have increased, like everything else with inflation, sometimes up to 7%. We decided to look at fees that were for the businesses, both in and out of town, for rental fees, and we discovered that those had not been reevaluated or increased since 2012. After looking at that, we proposed that to the Budget and Finance Committee, which voted on that, which you have here in front of you today, and recommended that to the commissioners. Those fees are in the ordinance. I don't know how much in depth do you want me to go through the ordinance or go through the fees?
No, it's just in clarification. It's since fiscal year ending 2012, so this is 12 years old in terms of the current fee structure that we have. Okay. And what is the cumulative effect of this overall increase per the ordinance? $100,000. Okay. Any questions or motions?
I just wanted to acknowledge and express appreciation to Laura for pulling together all the comparisons on the,
Thank you,
across the
Laura.
various towns, and note that for those of us those that believe that we're being punitive in our increases, which percentage-wise seem large but dollar-wise are not, Lewis will send you to jail for not having a rental license or to failure to get your business license.
Not sure if you're being serious.
Yes,
No, that's
I
in
reviewed
there.
it with great detail, yes.
Okay.
And we did, sir, lower the one-day fee from $50 to $25 at the request
Commissioner
of the
Jazinski.
commissioners.
Yep. Any other conversation?
No, I mean, I think people were focused on this, the percentage when, we were talking about a small business who, we don't want to hurt any small business. I mean, that's the reality of it. But having a $109 license to $139 after 12 years, I don't think that's very unreasonable. I mean, it's $30. I know stuff costs more these days. I mean, salaries went up from 12 years ago, so I think we're reasonable.
Before I ask for a motion, is there anyone here for public comment?
Steve Montgomery from the Starboard and others. I said something the other day at a business partnership meeting we had, and I just wanted to come to say it in front of you all that, Dewey is not, today is not the Dewey of 10, 15, 20 years ago. Dewey's got things that are changing. Property values are insanely big right now, that the fee structure of what we water, no property tax in Dewey and stuff, that's a bad word in Dewey Beach, property tax. That being said, we have real expenses that need to be addressed. We have a wonderful town manager that's addressing them and doing his best. We've got a new police chief that's got a very, great agenda of things she wants to do to keep this town safe. And we all want that in every which way, whether we're talking the beach, the lifeguards, the police, we all want a safe town. That businesses, I just speak in support of it, that our expenses are crazy. With our being the Starboard's opening weekend next week, we still call it that after all the years. It's kind of a reset for us, though, to go back and look at prices, look at increases, look at things. And, I'll just give you an example. A cost of a cup, a 16-ounce plastic cup prior to COVID was 8 cents a cup. A cost of a cup today is 28 cents a cup. I mean, it's across the board.
So how's that going to affect the crush price?
You'll find out when this meeting ends.
I think you need to do more cans. But so that's just my personal opinion.
My point is that, we've all talked about options and things in Dewey. I think that there is a general consensus. Of course, there'll be some people against, but there's a general consensus that most people in Dewey agree that we want to find a way to put money into this town. We would all like to keep no property tax because that's a core value that Dewey, bleeds in this town. That being said, there's other ways to raise funds, raise fees, because the money that's being asked for right now is being used in the right way. It's being used to put officers on the street, lifeguards on the stands, and the cost of employees these days. The Starboard itself is probably $1 million higher in payroll today than it was 6 or 8 years ago. I mean, it costs a lot of money to have good quality employees. And you know me, I'm preaching to keep our employees here, keep them happy. We want them working in Dewey. We want them happy to work in Dewey. It makes money.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
You have a question for?
No, just a comment. We're doing public comment.
Yeah, I was just saying,
There may be some
anybody,
other-
Katie, is there anybody online for public comment? Okay. Okay, good. Not good.
Yeah, my comment is just in terms of burden. I took a look at some of the increases in fees for restaurants and eateries. And, right now, if you look at the current burden, only about less than 10% of it is on the smallest of those restaurants and eateries. And the burden really is, and we just heard from one of the people facing that burden, it's about 2/3 of both the fees right now, as well as the increase in fees, are really borne by the largest eateries and restaurants here in town. So it's good to hear that there is some support for us being able to fund the town appropriately and move forward with a number of things that really need to be done. That's all I have. Oh,
Okay.
one other question. In terms of the ordinance that we're considering, We had 2 or 3 different versions, most of which I contributed to. And the reason I did so is I just became concerned that we would be clear in terms of the basis upon which the food and beverage service establishments would be paying a fee. Because we set this up in the current code as saying food and beverage service establishments based on fire marshal occupancy. We've had a big increase in outdoor seating, and the fire marshal only provides occupancy figures, at least as according to our building official who contacted the fire marshal. They only report fire marshal occupancy for those outdoor seated areas, outdoor dining areas, where the only way of exiting that area is through the enclosed structure. So I made some additions to this to make sure that we're covering both everything in the fire marshal occupancy figures, as well as any outdoor seating areas that are not covered by those fire marshal figures. So
And that's
hopefully,
noted in 3B.
That is, I'm not sure what version.
It's now 3A, because we switched B and A.
Okay.
So it's the latest version A.
But it does have, hopefully, paragraph 3, which precedes A and B. Food and beverage services, this would read $349 base fee plus $8 per person based on fire marshal occupancy, and then I added and seated dining capacity, just to make that clear. And I would just suggest that the town may want to take a look at what's on the portal. I know it's set up right now just to have people who have existing business licenses just to pay whatever it is they calculate they owe. You can do the calculation, or you may want to consider actually having businesses report just for this year what their occupancy figures are, and the basis on which they're making their payments. But that's an administrative decision you guys can make.
Yeah.
And just in addition to Commissioner Persinger's clarification, we also had an elimination of the real estate brokers, which would fall either in town or out of town, so that we weren't carving them necessarily out, as well as redefining what was said before, said retail, even though it's based upon small in town or out of town. And we did also eliminate the vending machine fee as well as the taxi fee, which were minimal to the overall fee structure. And also incorporated the one-time fee for the daily fee that Commissioner Jasinski had suggested for, which is $25 for contractors to come in and to do work. I did have one clarification on that. Is that a $25 per day or $25 per job?
It's day. I mean, I didn't intend for this to be if someone needs someone there all week, that's $25.
Right.
So it would mean then, excuse me, that if somebody came to town and was doing 3 jobs for that day, they could pay $25 and do 3 jobs, or
You got a one day permit.
one day.
Right.
one day. But if your job is a 3-day job,
And you're paying $75.
then it's $75, Commissioner Jasinski?
Yeah, or you're just getting a license. I mean, the real focus and the reason for my request was for homeowners who have someone who normally doesn't do much work in Dewey to do like a handyman type service and not have the cost of the permit be out of proportion with the cost of what they're doing for them.
That's good.
Okay.
All right.
I think it's a great.
So
Great
with the
suggestion.
revisions that Gary had suggested, can I have a motion?
I make a motion that we accept version, revision 3.823. It's listed as that in the agenda attachments.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That also passes unanimously. Number 3, discuss and possibly vote to approve the fiscal year 2024 budget. Mr. Zolper?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, so, Hall's worked very hard on bringing us into a new type of budget finance presentation, one that kind of looks like our auditors, what they use. She's still continuing. This is still evolving. We did hear some concern about the number of pages, but I think when you actually sit down and you read the information that's in our budget. So for example, we asked the police department, what do you want to see this year and why? And they gave that to us, and that is in the budget. Maintenance is in the budget. Lifeguards. Our town clerk talked about IT. She also talked about the new rental software we're using to find folks that are renting, but they are not participating in our rental program here in the town. All that information is in this. So yeah, the pages in the budget got larger, but it explained why we're doing things a certain way. With that being said, we're about a 9%, 9.5% increase this year, a little bit higher than inflation. But I think if you look at some of the surrounding towns, one of them is at 15% this year. The other one's right around where we are. And those towns also have a property tax, which we don't. So that's why we are looking for other revenue streams to provide services for the town, to provide police department, for the new chief, to hire qualified folks for those positions, to hire lifeguards, to do trash, the public trash cans that are on Route 1. Our town, the trash isn't all over the street. All that costs money to run the town, to make sure our building official has everything she needs, to look at what's being built, to make sure we're following code. We spend a lot of time looking at code up in the NR district. We want to make sure things are followed up there. All that costs money to do those services. That's why we do have some increases in this budget over last year's. Sheena and I are ready to answer any of your questions about the budget. I sent you an email on Sunday to suggest if you had any questions that we could address them during this past week, so we wouldn't spend a lot of time here tonight to do that, but we are ready now to answer your questions about the budget.
Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, Sheena, thank you very much. I mean, we've gone through this stuff a lot, but no one could ever accuse us of not being transparent about things. I mean, this is everything you ever wanted to know about our finances is in this document and why. So thank you very much for putting that together. I think the biggest thing, I mean, it's balanced. I mean, which we have a responsibility to have a balanced budget. We're going to have some challenge on transfer tax this year. I don't know if that's, I'm hoping I'm wrong, but if we hit it, like I think we faced this decision a few years ago during COVID, Gary. We're sitting there thinking like, man, I don't know how we're going to afford this thing, but we figured it out, and I don't know what the rest of the year is going to look like, but we made our best estimates on things. But I think we had a need to get our salaries in line for police and for administration, to make sure that that we're going to keep all the people we have, and I think that was most important. So that's included in this budget. We had this rainy day fund for rainy days, and if we have a rainy day, I think we've already set aside money for it. So I'm hoping we don't need the rainy day, but if we do, I think it's covered. So that's my 2 cents worth.
To your point, I think the transfer tax, all of our revenue sources are questionable. It's questionable in terms of weather, et cetera, and the transfer tax is obviously the one of greatest concern. Is there anyone here for public comment in regards to the budget? You don't want to? No? Okay. Anyone online? Not seeing any? Questions for the town manager and for Sheena and or next steps?
I just had a comment. I was trying to explain, Sheena, to somebody what you had done in doing the budget, and I was explaining it was somewhat like teaching a class that you knew very well, but now you had to teach in Spanish. I know you know how all of our budgetary stuff works, but now you had to present it in a different way, and I wanted to acknowledge that effort. I want to second what I've heard from several people about the need to get our salaries in line and make it make Dewey Beach a place that people want to work and want to come. I'm very excited about the new town hall and all that brings with us for administrative staff and for police. However, if we don't pay people here, it'll be an empty town hall, and that won't be good for any of us.
Great. Commissioner Persinger?
Yeah, I had a couple of comments. I mean, I appreciate all the work on the budget. I know that every time we raised a question, you guys went back and started digging around for some more resources, and you really came up with some pretty remarkable new resources that provided some good funds and did keep things in balance. So appreciate that very much. I exchanged emails with Sheena earlier this week to make sure that we were going to be able to hopefully meet the requirements that we have under our general fund balance policy. That all looks quite possible and doable at this point. And Paul mentioned the rainy day fund. I think the balance in the rainy day fund for next year will be about $2.2 million. And so that's a good reserve that we have to fall back on. And as Paul said, we hope we don't have to fall back on something like that, but it is there. The question of salaries was raised, and I don't know if Commissioner Jasinski is still enamored of the suggestion that he made at the last meeting, which was with regard to police salaries. And I raised this with the town manager earlier this week. This would not change any of the numbers in the budget. And I'm not suggesting that we change any of the numbers in the budget. And basically what we have there would allow for a 10% increase in the salaries of the police department. But there's some clear differentials, some bigger differentials in some of the ranks within the police department, particularly among the lower officers, where the town manager has expressed some concern about being able to attract and retain some of those younger and less experienced officers. So the suggestion I think that Commissioner Jasinski had last time that I thought was a good one was to provide an overall 6% increase in police salaries and then use that additional 4% to adjust some of the salaries where the biggest gaps are. So that in essence, you're floating more or doing a better job of floating the boats rather than raising the tide for everybody. I don't see a justification in numbers that I see in the budget for an overall 10% increase for each and every member of the police department, but there clearly are some where the differentials are much narrower. We could do with a smaller increase. And again, the suggestion was 6%. But clearly on some of the other officers, they're much farther behind some of the officers in other municipalities. So town manager promised that we would have some discussion about this. And so I will look at the chief or the town manager for a response.
Right. Yeah, I'd like to defer to Chief over here to enlighten us, because we're not qualified to make some of these decisions as you are.
As you said earlier, it's not going to affect the overall budget. It's about how much each person's going to get. And I can tell you right now, we have 8. That includes myself and lieutenant. So this 10% increase doesn't even include myself. So that's 7 officers that would get a 10% increase. I have 4 veteran officers, like Sergeant Dempsey, who's now lieutenant, who's been here 22 years. I have Sergeant Jenny that I just promoted, who's been here 18 years. I have Vaughn, who's been here 5, and Curtin, who's been here 3 or 4, but he has 18 years of service somewhere else. So by not dispersing the 10% across the board and saying, because we're trying to attract younger officers, I can tell you right now, the 4 senior officers that I have could walk out the door. Because with the way the pension is set up as the municipal pension, which is different than where I came from, they can take whatever years they have. If they have 18 years, they could go get hired by Lewis, Rehoboth, or anything else and still keep their time towards their pension. So they could easily walk out the door. And as Commissioner Gibbons says, I only have 8, including myself and the lieutenant, and we're approaching summer. It'll be very difficult for me to hire 2 new officers unless I get certified to come on and assist us up to 10. And 10 right now is, quite frankly, isn't even enough. I am going to be changing the schedules to 12-hour shifts just so I can have 2 officers at nighttime. So one's not by themselves for 4 hours at a time, which I have told you before is very unsafe. And then I'll have enough to have 1 during the day shift with the amount of people I have now. And then myself and the lieutenant will be working different things. But by not spreading that 10%, because these guys are really looking towards that, they want years and years, especially the senior guys with no raises. And last year, Mr. Zolper, you guys approved a nice increase across the board. So we had a nice jump for the younger guys. They went up a lot, and the corporals. But if you take the money from the senior guys, that's all my experience and knowledge. And if they walk on us, then what are we left with? We're left with the 3 PFCs with really a couple of years of service. So we have to look at it overall that we need to keep all 8 of us here And this could be a deal breaker for some of them because they have been really waiting for this moment to get this 10% increase. And we can't afford as a town to have them walk away because quite frankly, I can't service the town with 4 officers. We won't have enough, we can't do 24-hour coverage.
So our charter, Section 8, requires the town council to approve the budget based upon on a per department basis. The budget process has been put forth as to what the police department, what building, et cetera, has as part of their budget. I don't want to get into the business of pinpointing a salary on a person. I'm not more from an HR perspective, and I think we have a responsibility to approve a number if we believe that number is justified in the budget, and have the people that are running the town implement it based upon whether it's meritus or need. I've heard that for our cadets, it's grossly underpaid of around approximately $10,000. So that's my thought on the budget. I think it's
going to be the same number, so we're approving the budget.
here's the number. You know your
I'm going to
team.
defer to the people that have
Yeah.
to implement and make it work. I'd like to leave it in
I
their
have no
hands.
comment, others may have comments.
I am most comfortable with allowing, by having the big view, this is the money, and then letting each department head, this is how much you can do, please figure out how it makes your department work best. And if
And
we want
there's-
to send a cap at 10%
Yeah.
is the most you can give, then I'm okay with that, but I like our folk, these are good people we have in their positions, I'd like to let them make the decisions and lead.
Agreed. Commissioner Jazinski.
Yeah, so since I was the one who kind of started this whole thing, I'll tell you where my thought process was. I did not propose this with the idea that we would be telling Chief Speaks what to do with anyone's salary or what not to do with anyone's salary. I proposed this with the idea that this 10% increase is your increase in resources for the staff. And if you choose to give it distributed evenly, that's your choice. If you just choose that, hey, I've got more need here and less need here, that's also your choice. That's why we hire you. And quite frankly, that's also why we hire the town manager with the administrative staff. So what I'm hearing from my fellow commissioners is these are line items. If you choose to distribute it evenly, that's up to you. If you choose to put more money for certain resources because of merit or retention, that's your choice as well. My perspective is this is just the resource that we're approving.
Agreed. So you had no comment?
Yeah, I do. I think we do have more of a role than perhaps you implied, because we're continually asked to, or made aware of the fact that retention is a problem, and that we need to do something about those salaries. So we did something last year. We didn't do enough, and there is a strategy and I think an opportunity to do more by a better distribution. And I agree that we're not trying to impose any requirements on any given individual salary. We're not trying to make those determinations. That's for you guys to manage. But I just think when the numbers, we look at the individual salary numbers in the budget presentation, they're clearly the gaps are much smaller on the more senior end, the more senior officers, and much bigger on those who have the lower ranks and less experience. So I think the opportunity is there for you to make some adjustments. If you want to use the resources that way. I'm not going to vote against the budget. I'm comfortable with the overall budget as we have. I just think there's a better way to use the resources that you have in the police department to close some of those gaps.
Okay. So I actually think there's an important question to ask the chief right now, and that is, with this increase in pay rate for the lower levels that still need to be added to the staffing, are you going to be able to attract the staff that you need?
I think so, yes, because there's some other agencies that they're not right on the beach, but like Millsboro and such pay less than we do. I think with the increase that we are getting, I think we will be able to attract some staff. I actually have 2 seasonals that are returning that will be old enough to become police officers. However, we have to wait to get them through the summer, and they could attend a fall academy. So I really have two really good candidates that have been with us several years, and I was informed that most of the officers that we have working for us today started as seasonals, except for one, which is Swanson. He's the only one that came from the outside, and of course me. But it's a very good program, and I do have two viable candidates. And I do have about, I think, 8 to 10 applications in for the full-time positions. After today's meeting, I was going to go ahead and post something specifically for certified officers with our new salary amount. So maybe we can see if we can already get a certified officer in here, which would take us less time. But yes, I do feel that the way we're doing it, we can get people in here. And like, as I said, I already have two seasonals that really want to join us as full-time officers and go to an academy. So we already have, we're just going to have to
Good
wait
enough
for
me,
them.
man.
Thank you for the discussion. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Can I motion to approve this budget?
So I'll make a motion because I indicated I wanted to change something. So I motion that we approve this budget. But I motion that up to $40,000 be set aside in additional expense at the town manager's discretion to handle trash service on the beach, whether it's internally or through a third party as he sees fit.
I'll second that.
Can I ask one question?
Well,
What do we currently have in the budget for beach trash pickup?
For beach trash, we do not,
I'm just curious what that number is so that I can see the change. Or is there nothing in the budget specifically for beach trash at this point in time?
no, it's listed
Okay.
all as trash.
Okay.
And did we have an increase in our trash as a line item from last year?
You're making my head hurt.
I'm so sorry. I know it is late on a Friday, but you can find it faster than I.
Yes, ma'am.
And I just asked for clarity, David, to figure when we see the final budget approved, do we know what that line item is?
Trash went up, no, I did not, take it up because we weren't even close. We were under for trash this year.
Less on trash pickup this year than we budgeted, so
Yes,
there was
ma'am.
not an increase. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
So, yeah, I'll second that motion. Thank you, David.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, the budget passes.
Approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Sheena.
Thank you,
And
Sheena.
it should be
Thank you,
noted,
Sheena.
I mean,
Thank you,
It was
Dan
a-
Hirschfeld,
it's hard
for
to get up
Budget
the
and
hill.
Finance Committee.
but every year, it's going to get better and better for everyone to understand. Number 4, discuss possible vote on ordinance to amend section 93-5 of the municipal code of the town of Dewey Beach, eliminating the 4-hour minimum parking permit rate. This was a pro-business ordinance in which if somebody's coming in on a Friday night, for example, they don't have to have 4 hours. They could buy 1 hour, they could buy 2 hours, they could buy whatever they'd like. They weren't forced to buy all 4 hours.
So if you come into town and you just want to say hi to Mr. Montgomery,
And
it's going to cost you 4
It's going
hours.
to cost you.
So now you're going to say, talk less and go see Monty anyhow.
Right.
I'm with you.
And so that will take care of folks that want to come into town and pick up takeout or something like
Correct.
that. They don't need to
Correct.
pay for
It's
four.
$3.
Mhm.
Yeah, motion.
Well,
Oh, that's
We
fine.
can
We can
discuss.
discuss. We can discuss. That's
anybody
fine.
from public comment to talk about parking? Okay.
I'm not sure that this goes here, but I'm going to throw it out anyway. Mr. Zolper, I have heard that our parking signs are confusing, and perhaps if we had different color signs for whether it's metered or not metered might help. That doesn't need to go in an ordinance, but I wanted to
Thank you.
mention it while we're discussing parking.
So we have a motion.
I'll second the motion.
All right.
Yeah, could I propose a friendly amendment? The ordinance to remove the 4-hour, and I support what we're trying to do. The ordinance to remove the 4-hour minimum doesn't actually include adding language to say that you can use the metered rate in lieu of a parking permit. So my friendly amendment would be that we add to chapter 93.5 something that says, quote, "The metered rate may be used in lieu of a parking permit at any location allowing parking by permit."
Discussion item. So what did we figure? A meter is worth $48, each meter is worth $48 a day to the town.
There's 109 meters.
It's 109 meters. So there's a financial aspect to that amendment. I totally agree that that would be way more convenient, but if I take $48 a day times 100 days of summer, let's make it 130 because we do May 15th to September 15th. Each meter is really worth about $6,000, $5,500, something like that.
At 100% capacity.
Right. And that's what each meter.
Commissioner Bauer, I think you're misunderstanding my amendment. I think you're thinking I'm proposing the opposite. I'm basically saying that people can use the metered rate at permit locations so that people have the ability, the code says
the
that
opposite.
can allow people to buy just an hour in the parking by permit rate. I'm not proposing the reverse, that parking permits be allowed at metered spots.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes us more money.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't want to give away any town money on it, so I think that's a good way to do it the opposite way.
Yes, sir.
So I'm fine with the amendment. The question I have is, do we really understand what the impact of this is? I had asked a question at the last meeting, and thank you to Tammy Horn for putting together some numbers, but I was actually pretty surprised at this. For the summer season of 2022, the town sold 31,591 4-hour parking permits. That's in the $360-some thousand range. How confident are we that by going to hourly parking throughout the town, that's basically what we're doing, how confident are we that we're going to be able to maintain that level of revenue? We're clearly going to see more turnover, and I think that's a good thing. That gives people more of an opportunity to park. It's a good thing to have a place, to park if you're doing carry out, or you've got an hour to eat dinner, and you find a parking space, and you manage your meal within that hour. But that's a lot of money.
Right.
And how confident are we that we're going to be able to come relatively close to that at least? And I think if you assume there's an 80-20 split between the 12-hour weekend rate and the $10 during the week rate, I guess that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe Thursday as well. How close are we going to come to that $360-some thousand? How do we feel about that? Are we confident going forward that this is a good change? I don't know the answer to that.
No, yeah, I know you don't. We know that it's not zero, in terms of, somebody come in, if they're going to pay for 4, they're going to pay for 1. I could argue that those that were coming in for an hour for pickup weren't paying for parking. They were just running in and hoping that nobody was around. And now they will be paying for parking. It's a great question, and I don't know how we could quantify the outcome on that, other than if we had a year that we were to take a look at it, and we know that this fiscal year we are going to look at it, and if we see a significant decrease, then we can address it next year. Or if the council feels that there's no reason to decrease, get rid of this, then that's up to us.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't know how, if it gets the same amount of revenue, I'm fine with it. And I hope that the property owners here in town understand that we're extending hourly parking throughout the town, no matter where you park. You go up to the north end and people can park there on an hourly basis. They can't do that now. Where you're, anywhere in town, it's hourly parking. So if people are comfortable with that, that's fine. Concerned about the revenue, is there any way we can track the effect of this over time? Is that possible?
Yeah, I don't know. I just know that several of the complaints that I received when I first got here was that people had to buy a 4-hour parking permit to go somewhere when they didn't need one. And then on top of that, they forgot to put the Charles Lincoln in their tag. So then they got a penalty on top of paying 4 hours, and then ended up costing them close to $75 for an hour and a half meal somewhere on top of what they paid. I think we need to look at trying to make the parking here in Dewey Beach as simple as possible. And I know that's kind of tough. I know talking to Commissioner Bauer about this, it is really confusing now when you come into town. And maybe the different color signs is a way to do it. I mean, as we talked about it last meeting, different streets are metered. You can only park on one side of the street and you park on the other. It's 40/12, which means you have to have a hang tag. But anywhere you park in town, and Tammy, correct me if I'm wrong, anywhere you park in town, you can do Park Mobile. So you could go to the north end and do Park Mobile and pay for an hour. You could go to the south end where it's 40/12 and do Park Mobile and pay for an hour. I really like to see us do away with our kiosks, except the one in front of Town Hall eventually, and just either do parking tags or Park Mobile. That's it for the whole town. Either do one or the other. I don't know if we're going to lose revenue on that or not. During the height of the summer, people are looking for parking spots all the time, and if somebody goes in, somebody usually pulls right into that afterwards. I don't know how to answer your question, Commissioner Persinger, about the number, how it's going to affect us if we do away with the 4-hour parking.
Yeah,
really
I
don't.
don't, there isn't a good answer right now. I guess the only thing we can do is we try this, and next year, if our Park Mobile revenues are way off, then we know we did something wrong.
I will
We
say
have to
this,
fix that.
our fines were off this year. I believe, Sheena, but our overall parking revenue with Park Mobile went up. So we believe that the education piece for parking on Park Mobile, as younger people are using it and older people are starting using it, more people are using Park Mobile, so they're not getting the fines.
Right.
So we hope that
agree.
continues.
Okay.
And then, not that I'm a Park Mobile ad person, but it is convenient because you can stay at the beach, pay more, and you don't have to go back to the car. And I'm always amazed that, okay, I paid for this spot, I still have time left on it or whatever, I leave, somebody else is gonna pull into that same spot, and they're gonna pay for that same space that I've already paid for, because unlike a meter where you can tell the time is left,
Right.
you've gotta pay again.
Yep.
So, I also have gotten the complaint that 4 hours, I don't wanna pay for 4
gift
hours,
that keeps on
where else
giving.
can I park?
So, we've had a motion, we had a second, we had conversations. So is there any amendments, or are we ready?
So David had
Oh,
an
there is
amendment.
an
His-
yes.
So David, let me understand, just so I'm crystal clear on this. So if I have a hang tag, I can't go to a meter.
Correct.
If I want to use a hang tag area, I can pay by the hour.
Correct.
I think that's a great suggestion. I'll absolutely amend that.
Is that the second? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
Thank you.
Discuss and possibly vote on ordinance to amend 93.5 of the municipal code of the town of Dewey Beach to increase the daily parking permit rate. Town manager.
So our rate right now, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, our daily rate is $15 a day. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it's $20. What I want to do is again, going back to make it a lot easier for people to understand, just 7 days a week, it's $25 for a daily pass. Not different prices on different days.
Right.
It's just $25 across the board.
And when we still have it that Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday nights after 5 is not
5 to 11.
charged?
5 to 11 is free this year.
Okay.
And does a daily pass get you 24 hours?
Yes.
Okay.
And you still have the ability to buy a 8-day pass for $90.
$23.59, Gary.
24th minute, you're late.
Don't be late.
Okay. One from the public with comment? Okay,
No comments?
can I have a motion?
Motion.
So I'll just make a discussion point if anyone wants to discuss it. I'm not motioning that we don't approve this. I'm just putting it out there for discussion. With this latest increase, we've got a pretty striking disconnect when you go from daily to weekly to seasonal. The daily rate's 25, the weekly rate works out to 11, and the seasonal rate, basically works out to $1 or $2 if you're using it all season on a daily basis. So from my perspective, some discount makes sense when you're doing weekly and seasonal, but right now it's a pretty significant discount when you move into the weekly and seasonals over the daily rate. And it's just something we might want to be really thinking about.
If I could just make, so that our folks that come in for the day usually aren't renting, so we're not getting any income that way for those folks that are coming in just for the day. They're coming in, they're parking, they're using the beach, which I have other lifeguards, they're using our public trash cans, which we have to pay for. So the folks that are coming in for the day, I believe the rate is correct. You're getting lifeguards, trash, and police officers if you need them for $25 a day. And we have a beautiful beach, and this year with the beach replenishment, we're gonna have more people than we've had in the past on the beach. So I think $25 a day is a reasonable rate.
And we don't have beach tax.
And what are the state parks? State parks is 20, correct?
I'd have to look, I don't remember.
Worth $5 more.
Right.
Now, that's a good point, Mr. Zolper, that they don't contribute to revenue through rental taxes and whatnot. Yep.
But to your point, David, as we make all of these changes, let's look at the base. Let's see how this affects going forward.
I'd like the motion to approve it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. It's also unanimous. Number 6. Discuss possible vote to amend the Dewey Beach virtual meeting policy. So, Kate, can you provide us a little background on this?
Sure. I'm just going to talk over here if that's okay. Everyone can hear me over Zoom though, so I think we're good. So while we're on the item, I just felt it was important to, if nothing else, provide an update just as to where we are with virtual meetings to clarify for you all and all other committees. The Town Council voted last January to temporarily rescind the Dewey Beach virtual meeting policy due to health concerns related to COVID-19. There was no end date provided. Additionally, Governor Carney has continued to extend the public health emergency order every 30 days. Last extension was issued March 3rd. This order overrides the state virtual meeting guidelines, allowing meetings to be fully virtual without an anchor location. And the town has held a number of meetings fully virtual over the past year in accordance with the state virtual meeting guidelines and the emergency order. Being able to hold meetings fully virtual has helped with scheduling and getting quorums as members have been able to join from any location. We believe continuing to do so will only encourage regular meetings by committees, easier scheduling, and potentially make recruitment of new committee members more successful. Town staff requests that you consider rolling back the requirements of virtual meetings to match those of the state, as it seems to be working well for us thus far. And I'll just note, with the public health emergency order still in place, it's not critical that any decisions are made today. This isn't a make or break situation. But since we're a year out from the suspension of the town policy and discussion with the mayor, we wanted to keep this on the table so it doesn't inadvertently go to the wayside.
Thank you.
I'll motion to approve that.
So clarification, please. We are not making any changes to what was there before, therefore there are no red line marks. We are all only continuing what was in existence.
Right. Correct.
I'm not sure that that's what we're doing. I'm a little confused. You're basically suggesting that we follow the state guidelines.
Correct.
And not have a Dewey Beach specific policy.
Correct.
So we are erasing our policy.
Right, that's the proposal.
Okay.
Okay, but that policy is suspended right now. So I mean, you
It
don't
is.
have to act
Right,
today.
but we can talk about it.
You can
I'm a
certainly
little
talk
bit-
about it.
I'm a little bit confused, guys, because in this note that we published, we have additional Dewey regulations that specify for the Town Council and Board of Adjustment an attendance requirement, and for other committees a different attendance requirement, like in person. Are those not going to apply?
That's what is being
Right.
proposed.
As of right now, that is temporarily rescinded. So right now, as it stands, we are not adhering to our town virtual meeting policy because it was voted to temporarily suspend our entire policy in January of 2022. But there was no
Right.
end date on it.
Right, I get that. But
Yeah.
So we're basically putting it back in, and we're going to say that commissioners can only do 3 remote meetings. You got to have the quorum on site, all that kind of stuff.
The proposal is, since we've been following basically just state guidelines for the past year, which is simpler, and it has seemed to work over the past year, it's just being asked to consider us basically doing away with a town-specific policy and following the guidelines from the state.
So you're not proposing this attachment that's on the agenda of the virtual meeting policy. You're proposing that we just adhere to state guidelines.
Correct. Both the state meeting guidelines were posted for review and the current policy that was adopted in, I guess that was August of 21.
Yeah.
And then it was rescinded temporarily a few months later due to COVID.
Okay. Okay. So thank you for that. Because I was
Just for
confused. I was
comparison.
thinking I thought we were reapproving our town guidelines and instead we're just going to go into the state. So I don't know. I know Commissioner Persinger probably has some concerns about the amount of virtualness with it. And I want us to have flexibility, but I'm concerned about there being too much flexibility and then meetings just kind of moving to being mostly virtual and not in person. I don't know what Commissioner Persinger's thoughts are on that.
Oh, you want to go?
Well, I do have some thoughts, unless you want to go first.
I'll just, when Kate approached me with this, following the state guidelines seemed to make sense versus us having different guidelines. I understand our desire to have in-person meetings. I think it's better for us as commissioners. We've also, we have chosen to assume these responsibilities and roles, and that we're going to be here, unless there's some unforeseen circumstances, the reason why we can't be here. And I think that was what I looked at as a positive thing of just following the state. If you cannot be here, that we still would have a quorum and we will move the business. That was my thought process. But, Gary.
Yeah, I would support changing the guidelines that we have, making some changes, but I would not like to eliminate those guidelines. And I think there may be some misunderstanding about what a virtual meeting can be under the state guidelines. It does not mean that you just have a location where the public can attend the meeting, but you actually have at least to have one member of the public body that's meeting present in the room at that virtual location. So I think just, if for nothing else, the optics alone is not very good. If you're trying to watch the meeting and you basically have a room full of empty chairs, doesn't really look very good. It doesn't look like the town or the people who have accepted responsibility, particularly for those, certainly for us, and as well as for those those groups that are formally established by the town charter or by the town code. I think there's almost there's an unwritten responsibility for them to do the best job they can to show up and be here in person. I know that when planning and zoning, and sometimes for us as well, there are presentations that are necessary, visual presentations, that really don't work very well from a virtual format. And I think having people around the table, having the opportunity to, react to in person the comments of other members of a public body, I think there's some real value to that. What I would change, what I would recommend we change, are things like having to notify the chair or the town manager or the mayor that 10 days ahead of time that we want to do the meeting virtually. I think if we could have a quorum, we should continue to have a quorum requirement in person for the town council, for planning and zoning, for the Board of Adjustment, and for the audit committee. I think it's important for those people to be here, to have an in-person quorum. And then the other members can participate virtually. The only tricky one that we have is the investment committee, which is not formally established in the code or the charter, but it does have specific responsibilities that the town code has. So I think it would be fine with respect to that group if we made an explicit reference to the investment committee that they could follow the virtual guidelines that are in the state. And that would be true for budget and finance, for marketing, for any of the other committees that are not specifically established within the charter or the code. Again, I just think visually, if nothing else, if people want to watch these meetings, people want to come and make public in-person presentations. If you have an important issue that you need a special exception or variance for, you may well want to be able to present that in public or in person, and you want to be talking to people in the room when you do so. It's true for planning and zoning. I think it's true for us as well. So that's where I am on this.
I don't disagree, Gary.
Well, I guess one of the things I looked at, Gary, is just the unforeseen circumstances. According to our current policy, just as an example, and maybe there's something we need to revisit line by line. The town council each town commissioner may participate virtually no more than 3. And
That
that
could
may
be subject to change, sure.
Yeah, it could be,
Yeah.
because if not picking on you, David, but if David goes back to Africa.
Oh, he's totally picking on you.
And
Say he wasn't, but he totally is.
And then we don't have or then he's not able to vote. And I don't want that unforeseen circumstance necessarily to.
Yeah.
Well,
Despite my being the person who seems to recently have been absent the most, I actually do support us having a more restrictive policy than the state guidelines. I think that's important. What that ultimately entails, whether it's like what we previously, had in place that we suspended, or whether it's something slightly different, I'm very flexible about it. But I personally think that the state guidelines are just a little bit too loose for Dewey. That's my personal opinion.
I don't think that's ever been said before.
Wow. Ellen, write that one down. I mean, this is front page news here at this point.
Mayor, I do remember this first came up when Mayor Cook was sitting in your chair. And my concern at the time, and I was sitting out there, my concern at the time was who gets first dibs. Like if you need to have a quorum, but 3 people can't be there, is it the first 2 that tell you that get permission? So that's
it. But the nice thing, and I think this is something we table and we look, potentially have a discussion on. But the nice thing about the council has worked is that, Commissioner Bauer has, his bachelor parties he has to go to. We move things up, go around. So
that is true.
So we try to be.
Wait, you hate to say no to those. I mean.
All right, so we're
going to table.
We're going to table this.
Do you need a
motion to table.
Second.
Motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Go ride elephants in Africa.
Discuss and possibly vote on ordinance to amend 21, this number 8 on the original agenda. Discuss and possibly vote on ordinance to amend 21-6 of the municipal code of the town of Dewey Beach, eliminating the pedicab permit fee. This was a minor inclusion on our fee structure. It just seemed like more of a nuisance than anything else.
I'd like the motion to approve this one. I mean, it's a nuisance.
Second.
I'll second. I just have a question.
Sure.
So a pedicab company would then pay a business license fee, just like any other business? Okay.
Simplify it. Got it. Thank you.
Keep it simple.
Anybody in the waiting room? No pedicabs? Okay. Right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That also passes unanimously. Number 9, discuss possible vote request planning and zoning commission consider recommend possible changes to the town code that would provide consistent provisions governing the renewal of building permits, appropriate time requirements related to expiration of special exceptions on variances granted by board adjustments, and 3, clear specifications for the number of driveways entrance permitted on any lot of Dewey Beach. Now this is us remanding to the planning and zoning for them to look at this. It was our building official had brought this to our attention that there were some inconsistencies or ambiguities, and this is a request to have them review those and propose back to council.
I'd like the motion to approve those. They've asked for it. I think it's up to us.
Send it to planning and zoning.
I will second that.
Any other conversation? Not seeing any. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That goes to planning and zoning, Kate. Number 10, review of February financials. I'm sure all the council has reviewed them in detail. One question I had for you, Sheena, which I probably should have looked up, is very low transfer tax for the month of February. I think it was only $7,000, and I hope it's not an indication of future to come monthly amounts. But as I look around Dewey, there's also only, I think, 3 or 4 properties that are on the market as we speak.
I say that in April, beginning of the month, we'll get about 40,000 for March sales. Or February sales. This month, we're getting for February,
I'm sorry, so the 7,000 was for
January.
January sales.
we get
We're
about
getting
40,000 for February.
Do you remember
sales.
what there was in prior periods, like the prior March or prior February?
Much higher.
It echoes the concern I think all of council has in terms of the future of transfer tax.
Just a quick question. Any idea where you think we're going to end up as a bottom line for fiscal year '23?
About 300,000 to the good.
Okay. Should help us satisfy any obligations for the rainy day fund as well as the unassigned fund balance. Okay, good.
If I can.
Go ahead, sir.
40,000 a month would be 480, and I think in our budget, we put $500,000. So 40,000 a month is indicative of what the rest of the year looks like. I think we'll hit the budget on the right number.
That would be nice.
Fingers crossed.
Just for the record, I mean, here we are sitting at February, we're assuming a loss in March, most likely around, I would assume around $100,000. The income before set-asides and non-general fund as through the year through the end of February was 1.2 million. So while the 300,000, I don't know if that's what you're quoting, but we're not going to go from 1.2 million to 300,000. It's 1.2 million
With the set aside.
with
I'm
set-asides
talking with the
and
set-
non-general fund
Yes.
expenditures. Yeah. I don't have any other questions on the finances. All right, move on to number 11, comments. Town manager.
Yeah, I want to, just a special thanks to the whole team, the chief, her team with the police department, the dispatchers over there, Don for the excellent job he does maintenance, Sheena, Laura, Jeannie, Jim Dede, Dawn, Kate, all our folks, Tammy, that do just an excellent job. And I think by you approving the budget, which gave those salary increases, I think it's your way of telling them also thank you and that you care about them and you're going to take care of them in the future. I appreciate your confidence in myself and the chief to actually look at what the budget is, what you've approved in the budget, and let us make the decisions on hiring, dismissing, and promoting the folks that we have on our teams. I really appreciate it. I've worked with some teams around the world in some really bad places and some really good places. We have I think you have some very dedicated employees here. We're lucky to have them. And again, I think by doing these salary increases, you're telling them thank you. So I really appreciate you approving the budget. And also, David, thank you for approving the budget.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Chief, comments.
Once again, I appreciate everything that you're doing to support us, and we're making great strides, and we're preparing for the season, and hopefully it's going to be a very safe season, and we get enough Cecils and everything else to support us. And I had finished my training on Tuesday, so I have my COPT
You're already
test.
finished.
Well, I have my test that I have to take. They won't give it to me till St. Patrick's Day, so I'll be taking that, and I'm hoping.
Just in the nick of time.
I'm hoping they're going to give me my provisional certification after I pass my test, because they'll write it in front of me, and then hopefully they'll do that, and then I'll be good to go. Either way, I'll be working St. Patrick's Day weekend. We're prepared. Everybody will be working that weekend, and we're bringing some outside agencies in to do little things to just show a nice show of force, because it'll be our 1-year anniversary since we had our shooting. So we just want to be out there and show that we're there, and we're going to do whatever we can to make it safe and
So if you're
Good
ever
time.
taking 6 months for training, it happened.
got it
She's a
done.
quick study.
It's a quick study, that's right.
I know it's early. And this is probably the easiest meeting you've had, council, so I'm just going to pass that by.
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner Barrett.
We haven't deferred to you at all today. That never
That's a
happens.
sign of a healthy organization.
Just a couple of things. I mean, we still keep getting e-blasts that go out there that, I'd be remiss if I didn't call it out, because, you got to be truthful when you tell people. And people that are, watching the meeting and doing those things, we're open about all this stuff. It's not like, trash came out of nowhere. It's like, sort of neglected, when you send an e-blast out to the community, like neglected the fact that we didn't have anybody else that wanted to do it. So, I mean, that's a problem, but tell the whole truth. I mean, we don't need trash journalism, and, I can go through the grocery store checkout line and, pick up the Inquirer or something. But, I would hope everybody, And I expect better from everybody to do those things right.
Thank you. Commissioner Gibbons.
I wanted to say, kind of piggybacking on what Commissioner Bauer said, I really appreciate the town members who have reached out to me over the past week or 2 weeks to see what's really going on in town and what the real stories are. And hopefully my responses have been helpful. And if not, please reach back out to me again and I will try to give better answers. I wanted to acknowledge how fast the chief has been making changes in town. I have already seen the tinted windows removed from the police cars, which makes me personally very happy. Didn't know that I had that much paranoia in me, but it was bothering. And that the cars are marked. All of that is beautiful. I'm seeing more folks on the street. And I want to remind everybody to have a very safe and fun opening weekend.
Commissioner Jazinski.
No comments.
Commissioner Persinger.
Yeah, just a couple of comments. I think we talked a little earlier about the fact that we don't really want to be involved. As a town council, we don't want to be involved in trying to determine salary levels or promotions or anything like that for individuals in your charge. I think we spent a lot of time over the past couple of years making sure that our charter clearly defined the roles that everyone played here and where the levels of responsibilities are. The only thing I would ask that is that you take a close look at the charter and make sure that the way in which promotions and salary increases are made are fully consistent. There are some very limited situations where you're asked to seek input from the town council. And I don't think the town charter provides us with any opportunity to override necessarily any of the decisions that you make, but there is some language in there that would require you to seek input. So I just ask you to talk with with our counselor and just make sure that the way you do things is fully consistent with the language in the charter.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And finally, for me, I'll echo a little bit about what Commissioner Persinger just said, and it's an element for improvement. Very recently, we were invited to the Dewey Business Partnerships meeting, and the one thing that I wanted everyone to know is how well this council's working and how we've been able to move things forward in a positive light. We do have issues in the code, and Ms. Hinks did bring it up in terms of very specific elements associated with building and with driveways, et cetera. And some of the language, especially around this organization and its powers and what we're meant to do, there is some ambiguity in terms of how that could be read. But to Gary's point, we're not here as HR. We're here to find a way to have a balanced budget and to have a safe town. So, with that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Under 2 hours.